ghostwriting is pretending to be other people on the internet.
Every business is kind of a media business at this point.
Tell me what the deal is with Substack. I feel like all the writers that I admire seem to be moving there. You said Substack is elite. I'm going all in.
I just grew 1,000 subscribers in 30 days just by posting notes.
This person said ghostwriting is going to be completely replaced by AI within the next year.
All of us can go and make dinner, but we still order out a lot of the time.
Writers in the future are going to be like part technologist, part the orchestrator or the director.
This guy paid me $10K per month after reading a newsletter about how I lost $70,000 with a bad business decision. We just closed another one on accident. This is crazy. It's such a fun adventure. That's the new Taking the Ring to Mordor. Just layering skills year.
I want to just kind of jump right into it. All right. Welcome back to the Inspired Idiot Show. Welcome back, Taylin. This is your second time on the show, but Aldis, welcome to the show. First time.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm stoked for this conversation. I want to just kind of jump right into it. I know that you guys probably kind of identify as being content creators, ghostwriters. Those are probably words that you use a lot when people ask you guys what you do. But I want to hear you guys explain, if somebody is completely unfamiliar with the concept of ghostwriting, how would you guys kind of explain this new offer that you're working on to somebody who's really new to this stuff?
We could go with the classic ghostwriting angle, which is ghostwriting is pretending to be other people on the internet. Just keep it like super clear like that. But I don't know, there's got to be a more professional way. I'm trying to think. When I'm on sales calls, I definitely don't tell people I'm going to pretend to be you, even though it probably would work actually. It's usually more along like, yes, we're going to write the content. We'll make sure it's still in your voice and we'll make sure that like you approve everything, which I guess I'm just saying in a roundabout way. Like it's pretending to be you, but I'm just using more words.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. I mean, I feel like people who have never even heard of aren't in this space at all about like the online content creation ghostwriting. When they think of ghostwriting, they think of books. That's kind of like the default of ghostwriting a book for someone. I don't know, like Mark Manson with Will Smith, for example. But yeah, it's founders, business owners, like so many people know that the content game is important now, and that like in a way every business is kind of a media business at this point. And if you don't have the time or the skills to create that content, that's kind of where a ghostwriter comes in, where the skill of capturing someone's voice and writing as them and creating awesome content as them under a personal brand, basically.
Nice. Well said. Yeah, that's a good encapsulation. And I know you guys both have like different kinds of previous ghostwriting experience, mainly around social media content for people. So how has this new offer that you guys are putting out, which focuses a lot on Substack, how do you think that has evolved from the other ghostwriting work that you guys have done?
Well, I would say the social media ghostwriting, there was a lot more of an algorithmic component to it because it's being discovered on socials. And Substack is as well, but we're also hitting people's inboxes. So one of the big differences is what topics we might use, the types of writing that we can do when there's an audience that does care about you and has already said, hey, I'm willing to take time to see what you sent me in the inbox. So that does change things a little bit. But then, if we were just newsletter ghostwriting, which I know Aldis has done a lot more of than me, that's one thing. But now Substack adds the timeline component to it too. So now it's like we got to kind of think about both. What's going to earn the click in the newsletter, but also what might get visibility and attract more of that audience on the timeline. And we're trying to merge those two worlds. And that's how we even think about the Substack offer. It's, hey, what if your newsletters could actually gain subscribers? Like that's such a crazy concept. So many people are just, they capture attention on LinkedIn. Hey, I'm going to get you on my list. And then they send the newsletter. It's like, well, what if your newsletters could just also do that? Like that's like double duty. So it's definitely having us try to merge both worlds together, which is probably good that we come from the social media ghostwriting world and we can bring some of that expertise. So I would say that's how we're thinking about the Substack offer right now. But Aldis, what do you think?
Yeah, Substack's so unique because it's like it's a newsletter platform, so it does focus on long form for the most part, long form content, which is a different type of writing than social media writing. I find it more fun. Okay, that's why I moved from social media ghostwriting to newsletter ghostwriting. Long form is more challenging too. I found myself I got good at writing social media posts, but with long form, you can't really. It's a more in-depth skill set. You can kind of hide behind social media posts if you get good at packaging ideas into kind of persuasive, pithy ways of saying it. But with long form content like a newsletter, you have to really stay with one idea, flesh it out, be able to hold attention throughout. There's kind of a whole different psychology to it. And Substack is just so cool because, like Taylor mentioned, it's this mix of the social media aspect with the built-in discovery of people being able to discover your newsletter. So I kind of think of it as a social media platform with, long form newsletter. And that's a big angle that we're touching on when we talk to clients about this. Is we're kind of focusing, potential clients. We're talking with people who either have no newsletter but have a social media presence, or have a newsletter. Maybe it's a LinkedIn newsletter. Maybe it's something like through Kit or a Beehive, but they're struggling to grow it. And we're kind of like, well, like we could help you do that, and also like move it or start a Substack newsletter where we can kind of get this rocket ship where you get this built-in discovery and grow your newsletter through this platform. And then we kind of have to explain like, hey, it's a social media platform, but it also goes to their inbox, and like a lot of questions we get around are like, how do you think about that? And that's kind of where we start.
Yeah, that's interesting that you said that, because that was basically exactly my experience. I was doing my newsletter on Beehive for like 2 years probably, and I had somewhere between 300 to 400 subscribers. And then Taylin, you were actually like the straw that broke the camel's back for me on finally moving to Substack, because I was kind of playing with the idea a little bit. I'd been writing a lot on LinkedIn and Medium. And then, like I said, my newsletter was in Beehive. And I remember making a post in the Growth Ghost community being like, somebody tell me what the deal is with Substack. I feel like all the writers that I admire seem to be moving there. And I specifically remember you commenting, and all you said was, Substack is elite. I'm going all in. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to move to Substack. And I've been on there for, I think, just under a year now, and I've doubled the amount of subscribers I have, which, I mean, I'm
Amazing.
just shy of 800, which is not like massive in the grand scheme of things, but I was like, okay, I see it. So I'm curious what it was for you guys that kind of made you like mutually decide to work together and focus on Substack specifically over all the other platforms that people could be on today.
Should I start with this one, Aldis?
Yeah, you want to take this one? Taylin reached out to me. Taylin reached out to me last year, kind of being like, "Hey, you considered Substack? I'll let you talk about that."
Yeah. So I just kind of got sick of writing on LinkedIn and how it was like very corporate, and I felt like I couldn't write about creative work, being multi-passionate or polymathic and more philosophy-based content and have it do well. And I was in this mode of just being defeated. I'm like, whenever I write about the things I want to write about, people just don't care. Like, fuck, I just like accepted it as a reality. It's like, I guess that's just the world I live in. And I don't know why. It was like beginning of 2025. I just had this gut feeling that's like, maybe I should just test Substack and I'll just start writing on there. I don't even have to really care about it. I can just write about whatever I want because I don't think it's really going to work anyways, but I'll do like a 3 to 4 month test. And I just started writing about the things I actually wanted to. And it was like getting more engagement than my LinkedIn and my X content. Even with me having like 100,000 followers on X, I'm like, I'm getting more engagement on Substack, just writing about shit that I actually care about. This is nuts. And then I was like, oh, my newsletters can actually go viral. I had one go viral and get subscribers. I'm like, this is crazy. I can actually make money here too. And like just offer a paid subscription to my list and be like, hey, if you want to go deeper, like here's an opportunity, and it's all baked in. And then wait, I can run podcasts as well. So I can do nurturing. And I'm like, this is so nuts. Why has no other social media platform incentivized creators to write about the things they want to write about and give them a way to monetize it in one package that isn't just, oh, we're just going to have you pay for ads? It just like really blew my mind. And I loved the innovation of the platform. And I was like, there has to be people who want to grow on this platform, or they're just not like aware of how powerful it is yet. And everyone's competing in the ghostwriting space on X and LinkedIn, and everyone's like ghostwriting newsletters. But I feel like there's so much opportunity to ghostwrite for people on Substack. But because I was so busy with other things, I was trying to think who might be a good fit to help me with this offer, to help me run the operations, who also knows how to do newsletter ghostwriting really well. And Aldis was like the only person that came to mind. I think he was the only one I sent a message to, like, hey, this might sound really crazy, but I'm kind of thinking of doing this. And I don't know, are you interested? I can't remember what I said, but it was kind of like putting out a feeler. Do you want to partner on this? Like, I can't do it by myself. And you were like, yeah, this actually sounds pretty cool. And the more we talked about it, the more we were like, damn, we need to actually do this. Like, this is such a good offer.
Yeah. And I had heard about Substack before then. It was kind of like you, Kelsey. Like I'd heard people talk about, oh, this just feels less stuffy. I know a lot of LinkedIn writers. We kind of like, that's I started going all in on LinkedIn. That's where I really started kind of building my personal brand. And LinkedIn works well, but to Taylor's point, it's not that fun to write on, and it feels stuffy and it feels corporate and it feels quite like I can't actually quite say everything I want, and I can't actually write about all the things I want to. And Substack was like this kind of cool, interesting like idea in the back of my head, but I was like, I don't have time to think about this. Like I don't have time for it. Like I don't have the brain space for another platform. But then it was kind of like more and more, I just kept like getting the sense of FOMO of other people talking about how fun it is to write on there, how quickly they're growing. So that kind of, I was like, okay, that's intriguing too. And then Taylor messaged me. Taylor, I remember you gave me some of your stats too. You're like, I just grew 1,000 subscribers in 30 days just by posting notes. And I was like, holy shit, I gotta look into this. And I was like, I don't know. I really started researching Substack in late 2025, and then only started posting myself January 1st. I made this commitment to myself to post every day on Substack, whether it's a newsletter or a note. And I'm going to start doing live soon. And I got kind of lucky. My first note went viral, and I got like 100 subscribers in a day. That was a fluke. I don't expect that to keep happening, but I was just kind of like, wow, okay, there's something here. And that's when Taylor and I sat down to start to kind of flesh out like, okay, what if right now I'm writing lead magnets, I'm writing newsletters, just, purely email newsletters for some clients. What if we did this? How would we build an offer? And we kind of went back and forth for a month, and then kind of started to flesh this out.
Nice. So for both of you, like Taylin, you said you had a post that went viral. Aldis, you said your first note went viral. Do you remember what those posts or notes were about?
What was yours, Aldis?
Mine was not even that great. Mine was like, hey, I'm starting on Substack. I feel like a complete idiot and beginner here. Excited to do this with you all. And so many people were like, hey, me too. I have no idea what I'm doing, but like, let's learn together.
Yeah, those ones do work really well. Mine was because I've been writing on X for like 4 years and LinkedIn for like 3. I have a note that is done well on every platform, no matter when I post it. I've posted probably like 8 times and it's always gone viral. It's like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but my first month writing online, I made 0, next month 0, next month 0, all the way up to like month 6. And then it's like 9.3K. That one, like it just works no matter when I post it. So when I went to Substack, I was like, well, let's see if it'll work here as well. And I was a little nervous because Substack's more of an artsy creative platform. I wasn't sure what it would be like to talk about revenue. And I posted it and it went like super viral and that one note got me like 1,000 subscribers. And I kept getting subscribers from it. And I was like, holy damn, like this is crazy. And because it's a social proof note, I think that's why it converts so much. Like you can have viral notes that don't get you a lot of subscribers, but I've noticed the ones that have like the person behind it, like it's a personal accomplishment or a struggle. And if you can get one of those to go viral, that's where your conversion will come from. Similar to Aldis's, like, I'm new here, like just kind of messing around. Like it's about him. And I think that's why it converted so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen that posts on Substack that do really well are ones that show a little bit of humility, at least for me. I tested, like, one of my best posts was something like, I don't have a 7-figure business. I'm not financially free. But today I walked to the gym at 2:46 p.m. because I can. And to me, that's wealth. And I remember going on Substack the next day and I was like, whoa, because I'd never had that many notifications before. And so I've actually tested that hook with a few other posts, like a few other variations of it, of like just starting with that same, I don't have a 7-figure business, I'm not financially free. I find that type of content where you're kind of showing people like the human behind the business tends to work pretty well on Substack. But that's interesting what you said, Aldis, about kind of putting off learning Substack because it just felt like another platform to learn. That's exactly how I felt, especially like the more features I learned Substack had, like you said, Taylin, you can write newsletters, you can post notes, you can do podcasts on there. There's almost like it's like overwhelming what all you can do on the platform. But this actually kind of leads into my next question, because I think it's really cool to me that you guys have been kind of like sharing the journey of creating this new Substack offer. I saw that you posted recently about getting your second Substack ghostwriting client and like closing them for $3K a month. And you said that you did that by offering this guy like a free consulting call. And ultimately kind of figuring out like, oh, this is like the plan for this guy. This is like what he needs to do. Can you guys kind of like walk me through like how that call went? Did you just kind of meet with him and you just like immediately saw the path for him, or how did that play out?
Yeah, so with this one, it was so on my paid Substack, I have a founding member tier, which at the time it was $300 to do a call with me, as well as getting on the paid Substack for a year. So he actually booked in the call with me, and I looked at who it was. And I don't want to like out who it is, but it turns out this guy is like huge on TikTok, like over 1 million followers, massive on Instagram, published author, and is one of the few times I actually got nervous for a call. Like I've written for a lot of like pretty crazy founders at this point, but this call is where I was like, oh, I'm a little nervous actually. So I hopped on the call and I was like, I just want to provide as much value as possible to this guy. So I'm just asking him all these questions. Like the whole hour, I didn't even give him any information. I was just asking questions, and I let him know, hey, I need to know a big picture of your situation. I want to then put together some resources for you, like for exactly what you need. And I'll do another call for free, and I'll break down how it applies, and you can ask me any questions, and then we can just go from there. So he paid for one, I gave him two, and I built out his Substack monetization roadmap. I built out a whole system for writing newsletters, coming from finding the idea to prioritizing ideas, different ways to do hooks, and like made him a system for newsletter writing. And on that second call, he goes, oh yeah, so is this all to upsell me? Like, what's the next thing you can sell me? And I'm like, no, like I didn't even think about that. I'm just trying to over deliver. I just want to actually help you. Like that's what you paid for, was help. And he's like, oh, well, like what other stuff do you have? I'm like, well, we have like a ghostwriting offer and stuff. We ghostwrite for people on Substack, but like dude, like I just gave you everything. You don't need it. And he's like, well, like what would it look like if we did do it? I'm kind of like actively like, man, you don't need it. I just made everything for you. Like, oh, like I just tell him the agreement, what we would do for him and stuff. He goes, okay, I just want to think about it. So yeah, no worries. I didn't really expect too much to come of it. The next day he emails me, okay, so when could we get started with that Substack ghostwriting? And I was like, oh shit. So then that's how it worked. This is just the idea of, there's a term for it, but it's basically called like value-based sales calls, or like info selling might be what it's called, where you get on a sales call and you're like, let me just like solve all this stuff for you. And you just provide so much value that they're like, man, the paid thing must be amazing. And I've found with ghostwriting, it works extremely well. It doesn't work as well with other offers, like with education. If I just gave someone the systems on like how to write on Substack, they would just fuck off, say, oh, thanks so much. And then they would just never pay me for anything, like most likely. But for ghostwriting, when I'm dealing with business owners who are very time strapped, you show them what it would take to actually do this at a high level or like an elite level. Like this is everything that goes into it. They're like, oh, I want the elite level outcome. I don't want the time and process required to get it. So I found showing them that and doing all that for them kind of works as a sales tactic, although I didn't do it intentionally, because then they're like, okay, now my problem is overwhelm. Can I just pay you to do it? And that's essentially how that went. I just remember messaging Aldis, dude, we just closed another one on accident. This is crazy.
Andy's a pretty big fish, so we're
Yeah. That makes total sense to me though. I feel like that's like you kind of showed him like, hey, here's all the ways that you can take this. Here's like the plan that I foresee working for you. And you're kind of showing them like how much thought you're putting into it and how much strategy you're bringing into it. They probably look at that and then think, holy shit, I'd rather you just do it. You clearly know what you're doing.
Yeah, I've found that to be the case with marketing to business owners. Yes. The more you can give them, it's a little bit weird for me to say it, but you kind of want to overwhelm them with the amount of stuff they have to do, because that's their real pain. So it works with that. But again, if you're selling courses or something, don't do this, because people will just take the information and not pay you anything. So this is ghostwriting or like service business exclusive.
Yeah, I think it kind of taps into something that I have noted down to talk about later in the call. But like ghostwriting and like basically helping somebody kind of create and grow their personal brand is a very like invested service. Like you get very invested in this person's story, this person's business, what they're trying to do, what their mission is, making sure it sounds like them. So I think when people sense that in you, that like, well, this guy's like really invested in helping me, like he's really trying to understand, he's like planning this all out. They feel that trust that makes them want to bring you on to be the person to do it. Because I think ultimately these people want to be represented well, yes. But they like I kind of see partnerships like this as like a dance. Like they're looking for somebody to dance with, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Like all this, have you found that too? Like a lot of them, like these clients aren't necessarily hands off. Like they want to work with you on the content.
Yeah. And it depends. So I mean, I found that most clients want to work with me, And when I kind of explain, we don't just do the work for them. We like kind of explain our thought process, and I kind of think of it more as like a consultant who also happens to be good at writing. So we're kind of consulting them on the thought process of, hey, here's the psychology of why we're structuring this way. Here is why this length works here. Like, here's how we think about hooks, that type of thing. And then similar to what Taylor just said, like you're kind of giving them so much background and context to why we're doing this, where it almost overwhelms them. And then they're like, okay, you know your stuff. Like, can you do this for me? And so that's kind of how I think about it. And it's fun. Really fun.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like with that particular client, like you said, he had some pretty big followings on other social platforms. So you obviously saw this guy has potential to grow, and he obviously has messages that he wants to share. So, let's say if there was somebody else listening to this and they're maybe kind of intrigued about the idea of hiring somebody to write their Substack newsletter, what would you guys kind of look for or look at to determine if somebody is a good fit for that service?
What do you think, Aldis?
So we definitely look for typically someone who's already creating. Taylor and I went back and forth on this, so we had to really develop who our target audience is, kind of who our ideal archetypes are, and we kind of thought about, basically we want someone who's creating social media content already, so who's kind of already playing the social media game. We are focusing largely on like coaches and consultants who have an established offer. When I was doing my own newsletter ghostwriting and lead magnet ghostwriting, I come from the executive world, so I kind of started focusing on fractional executives. So they're basically consultants who do fractional work as like a CMO or CTO or something, and executive coaches. So that's kind of who I initially started reaching out to. But we're finding that like coaches and consultants in general we're starting to broaden more to like in the health and wellness and mental health space as well. So that's kind of who we're targeting. And again, people who have a newsletter that isn't growing. This is something that I found because I would help clients on LinkedIn get newsletter subscribers off of their social media following on LinkedIn using a lead magnet, kind of like an in-depth mini course basically. And I mean, one selling point that resonates with a lot of people is like, hey, you've probably noticed it's a lot harder to grow on LinkedIn and to grow your email list off of LinkedIn. I found that for myself. I found that for my clients. So we kind of mentioned that, and people very much are like, yeah, it's very true. So that's kind of a pain point that we touch on of like, hey, you're ahead of 90% of people, just the fact that you have a newsletter. Why not try Substack, where we've seen these insane results ourselves, and kind of like strap onto this rocket ship of Substack as a newer platform that has this growth built in, and like nothing else really changes. You can still use a lead magnet on the side, and you can combine your email lists. You can just kind of like use Substack as that additional, social media-esque aspect of it. And then, yeah, people with no newsletter. So basically people with no newsletter, people who have a newsletter struggling to grow. That's kind of who we're focusing on.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's interesting, though, that you said you look for people that are kind of like already playing the social media game a little bit. Like they have an established offer, yes, but they're already kind of posting content. Because I would bet that a lot of people with ghostwriting offers would look at somebody with an established following who's already posting content, and they might think, oh, this guy doesn't need us. He's clearly taken care of. But it's interesting that you guys see the opportunity in that.
Yeah. And part of our thinking was that we want to prove, like, one of the most compelling things about an offer is like, hey, we will help you. What we do helps you make more money. So someone who already has an established offer and knows that an audience and having distribution is really valuable, it's almost easier to talk about the value of a newsletter. We're like, hey, like there's this long form content that builds trust, that nurtures people. It takes, they're selling higher ticket services typically, like a couple thousand per month, sometimes more, like $10,000-$15,000 for this service. And someone's seeing a bunch of posts on social media, it's going to be hard to kind of bridge them to immediately paying for this service that's, thousands and thousands of dollars. So a newsletter offer like this kind of acts as a bridge to nurturing them. And it can take like 10 to 20 touch points of someone seeing an email newsletter, I've found, before they even kind of consider buying on average. So that's a huge selling point. And then like we can talk about this more too, but with Substack, there's the paid tier of, like a paid Substack. So there's a free Substack and a paid Substack where someone pays like, $9 or $15 or $19 a month to get access to content that is more in depth, kind of more hand-holding frameworks and stuff like that. And what Taylin and I have found in our thesis is that acts as an attraction offer, kind of a lower ticket offer. And if we position it well, that naturally leads people into this, this client's coaching service or consulting service or higher ticket thing. That's kind of how we're thinking about scaling and positioning this, is like eventually becoming a revenue partner to these clients, where we help them build attraction offers off of a paid Substack that kind of naturally lead into their offer, and then potentially they only pay us when we increase their revenue. So that's kind of how we're thinking about it.
Yeah, that's a strong offer. And I think a platform like Substack, or even just email writing in general, it's usually a little bit more, it's pretty straightforward in terms of like tracking that. Like there's a lot of email platforms where you can actually see like how much revenue was earned from this email, how many new subscribers you got, how many new paid subscribers you got. And I'm just thinking about other platforms I've used for email, like Beehive or Klaviyo, where you can often like directly track the revenue that came in from a certain email, which with a lot of social media content, and this actually leads into my next question, funny enough, because I think when it comes to a lot of like social media content, sometimes you have to get clear on like, how do we determine success for a client when it can't always be directly tied back to immediate sales. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Curious, Taylor, how you think about that, because we went back and forth on this a lot.
It is tricky, but I will also say that it's one of those things that it seems really tricky before you work with the client, but then in the actual process of working with clients, it's never been a hiccup for me. So even if we're doing like a revenue deal, it's like, okay, we'll write the newsletters and we'll just see what happens in terms of revenue. And then usually at the end of the month, they're like, oh, we had this much revenue come in, and it looks like the links that were clicked on in the newsletter led to like these people buying. And it's actually been like very simple to not have to track it too much. But I can imagine there's certain companies or people who'd say, we want to track like literally everything, want to make sure every sale, every dollar that is like directly attributed to you guys goes to you. But I'd maybe use the language that most of the time I find people do, kind of like homey deals. It's like, all right, yeah, you're going to write the newsletters. I'll let you know how much revenue came in. I'm like, great. Yeah, check and just let me know. And like, yeah, I will. All right, awesome. And we've even done that on LinkedIn as well. And it's like always been good for us. Like, I don't feel like we've been gypped in terms of revenue. Maybe we have, but if we have, it hasn't been substantial. And it's just been a really smooth process to just keep things simple and easy.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were saying before, though, that's part of kind of what you, I think, feel out when you're considering working with a client is like, is this somebody that I want to dance with, that I like, see us growing with? And do I feel like there's already a good relationship here? Because I think when it comes to any kind of organic content maybe I just haven't figured this out as detailed as it can be figured out, but I think there is a little bit of like trust that has to be there in that relationship.
It's true. I'll tell you a funny story on both sides. So there's definitely clients that would have been a really bad fit for us to take. And I hopped on a call with this one client, and potential client came in very cold. Like, it was very obvious from the second this conversation started that there was very little trust between us and the client. I think it was from a referral or something. The client goes, okay, so tell me, like, how do you write a good LinkedIn hook? I was like, what? He's like, tell me right now, how do you write a good LinkedIn hook? I'm like, well, I don't know. What's the topic? What's the hook? Like what are you doing? And like later he's like, well, tell me, how do you write a good LinkedIn post? I'm like, what is going on here? Like, it just felt like the client had very little trust in us. And like, he was kind of like, prove yourself to me. And I was like, I'm not a monkey that's going to dance. Like, that's what I'm thinking in my head. Like, I'm not just going to dance for you. Like, what the hell's going on? And I'm like, oh, it's because he just doesn't trust us. And he's trying to basically get me to like show him that I'm an expert. And it wasn't a good fit. So he's kind of doing that to me. And then to make matters even worse, we're like halfway through the call. And I'm like, yeah, so this would be an interesting niche to try to grow in because you have a restricted TAM, which is a total addressable market. Like, how many people does this appeal to? And he goes, I don't have a restricted TAM. I'm like, yeah, you do. He's like, I do not have a restricted TAM. And I was like, okay then. And he's like, how do I have a restricted TAM? And he gets all like defensive, right? And I'm like, well, relative to these other offers, you definitely have a smaller TAM. Maybe that's the way that I should word it. And we kind of got in like an argument about how restricted his TAM was. And I later realized after the call that this guy is like a huge business mogul, and he's been on like the Tim Ferriss podcast. He's like extremely wealthy and I didn't know who I was talking to. So I told this like guy worth like hundreds of millions of dollars that he had like a restricted TAM. He's kind of like telling me or asking me to prove myself to him. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Afterwards, I'm like, oh, he's a big dog. And that's just an example of, it was like a bad fit both ways. I didn't like the way that he's like, dance monkey dance. I don't want to work with clients like that. He didn't like the way that I'm thinking about his business. And even after the call, he's just like, why don't you email me with a proposal and we'll think it through. And I emailed him, said, hey, I don't think it's a good fit, but I'm going to refer you to somebody else. Like sometimes that there are clients you don't want to work with. It's kind of embarrassing now that I told such a successful person his TAM was restricted. And he probably thought this guy's an absolute fucking moron. Like he has no idea what he's talking about. It was just a mistake on my part with language, but that's like an example. You don't want to work with everybody.
Yeah. I feel like doing that, like you said, you offered that one guy a free consulting call. I found like I do free interviews with people, and I find it's so beneficial to just have some kind of like lengthy touch point, like have a discussion with this person, because you're feeling out like, do I think I'd want to work with this person? And honestly, you usually know by the end of the first call if you can see yourself working with somebody. And it's things like that. Like it's their, how they show up to the call, how much respect they speak to you with. Are they like kind of degrading your service right from the get-go? And like those people might still pay you. But I found in my experience, usually when I have moved forward with those people that I had that like initial instinctual feeling about them, they usually end up being clients that I'm like, I don't want to keep working with this person. Like they're not worth the energy that they take from me. And you usually know that on the first call, I find.
Yes, I would completely agree with that.
Yeah, and it depends on where you are, like in your business journey too. Because when I was first starting and I didn't have many clients at all, I was like, I will literally take any client I can get. And then, like the dream, like the dream of like what we're working towards is where you get to kind of figure out over time. You figure out exactly who you work best with, like who you write the best for, who you like writing for. And then like ideally you get to kind of choose if the client's a good fit. And if they're not, then no hard feelings either way. And you're able to like, I used to hate doing sales calls too. And I still, I'm introverted and doing sales calls took me a long time to get used to. But now I kind of think of them as just education, where like this person's either a good fit or they're not. And I'm just educating them on exactly where this opportunity is, tactfully pointing out some missed opportunities of what they're doing and how this could help them. If I do that well and they're the right fit, then I'm just kind of educating and kind of nudging them towards, hey, like happy to help if you want. And if not, then, if they're not a good fit, then it's no hard feelings either.
Yeah. I used to get nervous for them as well, but now I kind of just see it as like, I'm just like asking them questions and sharing how this works. And if they're really interested in it, awesome. We'll take the next step. If they don't seem interested at all, then like, cool. I still got a chance to like articulate what I'm doing and present it to somebody else. And I still got that experience. So I guess this is funny. Our talking points keep kind of naturally leading me into my next question, because my next question was going to be, so let's say you kind of have that first call with somebody. They seem like a good fit. Like this guy you said had a pretty established social presence, but wanted to get on Substack, wanted to start doing the newsletter thing. So could you walk people through, like at a really high level, what does that process of this newsletter or this Substack offer look like?
Yeah, this has been one of the most fun things to build out, actually, going back and forth with Aldis of what do we offer. And I want to try to make this beginner friendly for someone who's interested in getting into ghostwriting and might be thinking, what the heck do I offer? It just starts with, okay, like we'll write your newsletter for you. Simple. Like I'll ghostwrite your newsletters. Not the best offer in the world, but some people just want a newsletter. It's a good place to start. Then I'll also write your Substack notes. So now there's like a discoverability part. It'll allow you to get discovered more. The next part would be, can we tie it to an outcome? And the two outcomes are, can we grow the newsletter or can we monetize the newsletter? You could argue that nurturing is an outcome too, like building relationships with the list. It's just very hard to quantify. So the two outcomes we tend to lean towards are, do they want to grow or do they want to make money? And maybe both. So can we then attach the thing that we're doing to an outcome? Could we then add like a time frame? We'll grow you by, 1,000 followers in 2 months or something. And if I'm being transparent, this is where Aldis and I are like, we don't really know if we can do this yet. We're very new to the ghostwriting on Substack. Like, yes, I've been able to get results with my own account. Will we be able to replicate that success? And in what niches? So that's where we're like, okay, we want to tell them that we can grow them. We don't know by how much though. And we don't know if we can guarantee that. That would make the offer stronger for sure if we could do it. But it's too much of a question mark. We don't have enough data. So we're starting the offer by just saying, we'll just grow you. And that's the best that we can do now. And I even told this guy on the call, he's like, what are the metrics? Who else have you worked for? And I didn't lie to him. And I just said, we only have one client. We haven't even started writing for them on Substack yet. We just put this offer together. You would basically be the trial run. And he's like, oh shit, like you could have just bullshitted me. He's like, if you'd have told me you've written for 5 people, I would have just said, oh, great. And I was like, yeah, like, dude, you're honestly like the guinea pig. And he's like, okay, cool. I'll still do it. It's just like the transparency is so important. Like you don't have to try to fake stuff, even if you're new. Just like tell people where you're at. Like people will appreciate that. So that worked really well in our favor. As for like making the offer even better, that's where we're still figuring out what would it look like for the paid ecosystem and the revenue partner model. Because now, okay, how do we make the offer better? Well, we could write your paid Substack. Okay, well, why would I pay more for the paid Substack? Well, maybe we can get you enough paid subscribers per month so you make more than you pay me. That would be a great offer. But then all of a sudden are like, can we do it? We don't know. We haven't tried it yet. Our theory is that if somebody has a list of 2,000 to 4,000 people, there's probably a good chunk of them that would instantly convert to paid. And you could at least get a positive ROI in the first like month or two if you have good ways to like upsell them. And then, okay, well, what if instead of just a paid Substack, we look at each paid issue is like an evergreen asset and you create it once and then you link out to it in all of the free content. So now we're not just saying, oh, we'll write a paid newsletter for you. It's, hey, we'll build like an ecosystem of assets that continue to make money for you every month. And we'll even like give coaching and like products. What if we include those in the evergreen assets? So every time we link to that issue, we're driving more traffic to the product naturally. So now the offer becomes, hey, we'll grow you on Substack, write the newsletters and everything. We'll launch the paid, create a product ecosystem that naturally upsells and makes you revenue on autopilot. And we're like, damn, this is becoming a really good offer. And then all of a sudden we're like, could we take it even further? It's like, okay, well, what if once a month we actually launched an attraction offer, something like lower ticket, maybe it's like $99, $50, and it's like a sprint or a workshop or something kind of fun. And we could do that once every month or two. And we will do all the marketing. We'll write 5 sales emails. We'll put the offer together for them. We'll like write up the sales page, host it. It's basically done for you. And it's like, we'll do it once every month or two to like make you a bunch of money. And you just have to fulfill and then try to upsell those people. And assuming that this works, you should make more money than you pay us. We're like, this is a really fucking good offer. But the reason I started with the beginning to show beginners, it didn't start this way. It's about it's like Lego. How do we just stack a few more bricks on until you slowly have something like, oh, that's a cool like Lego Harry Potter castle. Now, it started out as a bunch of yellow and brown bricks. And that's how we thought through the offer at different stages. And we're still playing around with it. Like which of these things do people want? Can we quantify the outcomes? Can we actually get them a positive ROI? Is it too much work per client? So do we need to take less clients but make more money? How do we price it? Those are all the things that we're still validating and figuring out, but those are all the pieces that we're thinking through.
Yeah. And one of the fun parts is we're like, like the whole build in public kind of idea that, a lot of people have heard about this. And, but it's just, we're really trying to embody this too. Like Taylin mentioned, we're kind of like talking about what we're doing. And I mean, even with our first client, we were transparent too, but hey, this is a brand new offer. Like you're kind of going to kind of be a beta client. We've gotten results for ourselves. Here's the results that Taylin has gotten, kind of like use the social proof of Taylin. Like, hey, we are very good at this. We feel like we can get you similar results. And so just kind of like being transparent about that and then sharing what we're doing. Like, hey, we got our first Substack ghostwriting client. We got our second Substack ghostwriting client. Here's what we're figuring out. So we're kind of trying to like share as we go because it can feel overwhelming at first. And like, we're just iterating as we go. I myself started writing newsletters just because I was writing email courses. I was creating lead magnets for clients, and then it would start to get a couple email subscribers. And one client was like, okay, what do I do now? What do I send to them? And I was like, that's a great question. I guess I can figure that out for you. And that's kind of how I learned to start writing newsletters. And then that kind of led to Substack. And then now we're thinking through the paid tiers and attraction offers. So it's all iterative.
Yeah. And it's iterative of even past experience. Like the attraction offer thing, because I run a ghostwriting coaching program and I was just marketing it on LinkedIn the past year, I noticed that because it's so expensive, I had a hard time getting people to join. And I was like, why is it so hard for me to like sell these people? I'm posting on the timeline on LinkedIn. I'm posting like growth content. I'm posting like authority content. I'm posting stories. but no one is like wanting to buy anything. And it wasn't until I talked to some of my friends and they're like, oh, we found to sell stuff that's more expensive. To most people, they won't even consider it until they buy something cheap first. And I was like, I guess that makes sense, but is that true? So I used my paid Substack as a test. I was like, okay, I'll just launch a paid Substack. I'll talk to everyone who joins and I'll see what they're interested in. And I was shocked at the amount of paid subscribers that DM'd me and said, oh my God, I love your content. Like, what else? Do you have a ghostwriting coaching program I can join? Do you have a course? Can I pay you like $3,000 for this like coaching thing? And I'm like, fuck, like they were right. And that's when I started thinking through the Substack ghostwriting offer. I'm like, how many people have these offers on LinkedIn? They even have a newsletter and they still can't sell their product or service. So what if we did the paid newsletter becomes that attraction offer? And then what if even above that, we did attraction offers for people and became revenue partners? Because then we're asking what could get us like 15% of their revenue? We have to do like a little bit more work. Like, how do we do that? So it's all iterative, even of past experience and my own failures of just trying to solve my own problem. That's also why we do the podcast. I don't know if we're going to be able to help people with that. That might be out of our scope, helping them launch podcasts and stuff. But I found when I do podcast episodes, people DM me and say, hey, do you have a program that I can sign up for? When I just write newsletters, that doesn't happen very often. So it's just like testing these things for myself and being like, what actually gets people to want to buy things from me? And then how can we just do that for clients? But that's been like 4 years of iteration.
Right. Yeah, I think iteration is a really key point there, because the ghostwriting offers or the content creation offers that I've heard of in my experience that I think like, oh, that's a great offer, are ones where you can tell this person has gone through this so many times that they've got a system. They can like kind of roughly predict like where the revenue is going to come from. And they can kind of take that stance of, like you said, Taylin, of like, this is the investment for the service. But when all these things play out, we're going to earn you back more than that investment. It makes it a complete no-brainer. And when it comes to content creation offers, that's very difficult to do. It takes a lot of iteration of doing the same thing over and over again and getting really good at tracking to then be able to go to people and say, we know how this plays out and we know that we will earn you more than we charge you. So it takes a lot of experience to get to that point. But I guess, I mean, you also coach ghostwriters, Taylin. Can you kind of walk me through the process or how you guys think about it in terms of like pricing your ghostwriting services, especially when you're still figuring out like what is the return that we get people?
It's an art and a science. This is something Aldis and I were like, how the hell do we price this thing? Like, we don't know. And I leaned on Aldis for this. I'm like, what are you charging for like newsletter ghostwriting? Like, let's start there.
Yeah. And, I mean, for newsletter ghostwriting, anywhere from like $1,500 to say like $3,000 for a month to write a newsletter. And then we're kind of like, okay, maybe we'll use that as a starting point. We also want to maybe start with pricing lower, just so that we can get our first few clients. We can kind of validate to see if this thing's actually going to work. If it does, then we want to get some testimonials, which will kind of help build the momentum and get the snowball going. So we started off like kind of, maybe roughly there and starting on the lower end and kind of offering just some like discounts like, hey, we'd probably need a setup fee for this. What if we waive the setup fee? Because someone's going from 0 to 1. They have never been on Substack. We need to build their profile and name their newsletter and write their welcome email. So there's that portion of it. And then we were like, okay, we think we want to also offer a paid Substack tier. That's got to be more expensive because there's more newsletters and there's just more like a paid newsletter is almost like a recurring digital product. So how do we price that? So I think we're starting off pretty low right now on the pricing. I think it's a very attractive offer, but it's because we're validating it. And I think from the response we've gotten and just doing a ton of outreach via LinkedIn, and I do what I call kind of free consulting, where I look at people who kind of fit one of those two archetypes I mentioned and do a little bit of research up front on them. Like LinkedIn is fantastic for trying to look at people who could be good for this offer. And I record a quick Loom video and just kind of walk through like, hey, here's what you're doing. Like, notice you're writing this newsletter, for example, or hey, I was poking around. Looks like you've got this great social presence, but I couldn't find your newsletter. Have you considered this? Here's a missed opportunity. Here's the results we've seen. Here's what I'd suggest. We created a Claude project that basically mocks up a mock Substack of what it could look like just off of some of their content. So we kind of like make it personalized a little bit. And then at the end, just kind of like, hey, would love to help you build this out. Would love to hop on a call. If not, hope this is helpful. And so we're kind of just validating it every step of the way. And I don't know, maybe eventually we'll raise our prices or move towards this revenue partner model. But that's we're iterating. Kind of the theme of this.
That's exactly it. And that's the lesson for anybody starting out is, like my ghostwriting agency, like I think I've made over $1 million with ghostwriting at this point. But we're still like, hey, coming into it, we're going to price a little low. We're going to validate. We're going to make it a no-brainer offer. We need experience. We need social proof. And we're willing to, do our best to be as humble as we can in that process and figure it out as we go. We probably priced the paid newsletter a little bit too low, I think. But I even was talking to somebody the other day and they're like, I'd love to pay you, but it might take me a couple months to figure out when I can afford the ghostwriting. How much is it? I'm like, it's like $2,000 for the free. And they're like, $2,000? I thought it was gonna be like $4,000 to $5,000 for just the free newsletter. And I was like, oh shit. So maybe like we are extremely underpriced, but again, like we don't really know yet. And we want to make sure that it's a positive ROI for our clients. So that'll also reflect in our skills. Can we charge $4,000 and make them $4,000 a month if they have a validated offer stack? If yes, and we can make it a really good positive ROI, then great, let's charge $4,000. If we charge them like $2,000 or $3,000 and we're not even making them a positive ROI, it's like, shit, something's broken. We got to fix this before we can raise our prices. So there's nothing wrong with starting out free or more affordable and like gaining experience and skills. It's like, I do it every time I launch a new offer.
Yeah, that's funny that my next question was going to be, what do you think separates a $500 a month ghostwriter from a $5,000 a month ghostwriter? And I think you guys have both kind of touched on that it kind of comes down to conviction in their offer, knowing what value they get people, and iterating a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And for new ghostwriters, like this is the game. Like the money you can make is just, it corresponds to how much problems you can solve and how big of problems you can solve, right? And the market determines what those problems are. And a lot of ghostwriters I talk to are very defeated by this. They're like, I want to start now. Like, it's going to take forever before I can make money. How do I jump to like $1,500 a month? It's like, that's not the game. Like the game is to view yourself as the product. Like you are the thing that is being developed over time. Your skills, your experience, your certainty, your judgment. The more people that you write for, the more problems you are able to solve because you have more skills, the higher your prices will be. Like that's the game. And I think it's because people come from the mindset of school where it's like, hey, if I can just like pass a test, I can get a piece of paper and then you have to pay me good money. That's kind of like the school mindset that people accidentally develop. But it's like, well, in the real world, you just need to like become more skilled. Like it's a funny trite thing, just a skill issue. It's like, well, it kind of is. Yeah. If you knew how to solve that problem and you could make them more money than they pay you, then like they would probably pay you the money if you could show them that value. And that is the path. Like that's the fun part. That's worth like devoting yourself to. Just upskilling, layering skills year after year after year and raising your prices. Like it's such a fun adventure. That's the new taking the ring to Mordor. Just layering skills year.
Yeah, man.
I love it.
That's one of the reasons I'm so excited to be able to work with Taylin. I mean, going back years, like I viewed Taylin as like an idol. Like I found you on X, Twitter a couple years ago, and then from there I was just like, holy shit, like I want to be like this guy. And then I joined your ghostwriting program a while ago. Kind of built my own little ghostwriting business. And then the fact like when Taylin reached out to me about this, I was like, holy shit, like Taylin wants to work with me, and I just view it as like now I get to I've built some of these skills. I get to turbocharge my skills. Taylin is like incredible at writing newsletters and like this. Like I mean, writing in general, like newsletters, long form content, short form content. You're getting into YouTube videos now, and just like the psychology behind it, and just all of the I guess the psychology is a huge part of it that goes into how to write well and write persuasively and change beliefs and challenge beliefs and all that. I'm kind of of the mind of I don't like right now. I'm totally fine charging less, being paid less to get way better at writing and especially newsletter ghostwriting and all this. So I kind of view it as like I'm literally getting paid to learn, and eventually we want to grow this thing bigger and scale to $20,000 a month and beyond, $30,000 a month. Like literally I'm just getting like I'm literally getting I've paid for coaching and mentorship, and like it's the opposite. I'm getting paid to learn this, so super exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
think
appreciate the kind words, first off. But the second is the paid to learn thing is huge. That's one of the best things about ghostwriting. But yeah, like Aldis and I are learning together in real time as we build the business and we iterate and we figure out what's working and not working. And we also learn from our clients. Like, this guy that, Aldis is writing for that has 1 million on TikTok. Like he's so experienced. Like he used to work in these like massive big corporations, and you just get to learn from those people, and they're paying you to like, hey, I need to teach you this thing so you can write about it. Oh, great. Yeah, pay me to learn your stuff, please. So there's like the two sides of it that we're learning. We're learning the business and all that in real time, and we're learning from the clients we write for in real time, which is why we got to get a mental health client. I want to learn from some psychiatrists next.
I know, it'll keep us sane.
I love that. That's going to tie into a later question. But yeah, that's exactly how I see ghostwriting as well. I think I've even like made posts about this because I think that ghostwriting is like kind of being paid to learn from people. And so if you are like trying to help people, that's like, even like in the context of me doing these interviews, I'm like, I get to get on a call with somebody who's done something that I think is really cool, or they're building something that I think is really inspirational, and I get to just learn from them. And that's like what ghostwriting is. I'm like, I get to get in the brain of somebody who in some way I deem as more successful than I am. And I get to basically get mentored by them for free. And I think the people that are, I don't know if I want to say doing ghostwriting for the right reasons, but the people that are seeing the journey of it and like the long-term return on investment see it more that way, as opposed to being like, well, how can I get paid more like sooner? I think that's kind of chasing it with the wrong intention. That's probably going to be a lot less satisfactory for that person.
I would agree. That's all I had to add. I just agree.
Same. Yeah. And with like, I mean, ghostwriting, writing online, digital writing, this, like, it's so funny because it's almost cliche at this point because we all of us talk about this so much, but it's such a valuable skill. Like content writing, script writing, like, long form newsletter writing. If you want to, if you want to get into video, it's all, you got to write the scripts, and it's just such a valuable skill. And one of the best ways to do it is like Taylin said, practice on yourself. So you get to kind of like build this personal brand at the same time, and kind of like, hey, I can do this for myself. And if you keep doing that over time, you build an audience. And that's like this age of AI and automation, and just kind of not whatever the coming job apocalypse, and just the not as much security with jobs. Like building an audience, it can't be a bad thing. So I feel like that's part of it too.
Yeah. I was actually talking to somebody about my offer like a couple of weeks ago, and this person said like quite confidently, just writing content isn't enough anymore. Like ghostwriting is going to be completely replaced by AI within the next year. I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Well, truthfully, like I don't know. Okay, I have a few different thoughts on it. In the next year, I'm not sure about that, because I'm sure Aldis, you would even agree. Like I shared my Claude projects with you of how I even think about writing, and you were like, holy shit, like this is crazy. Like I have other students who have made Claude projects, and I see what they're doing and how they're using Claude to write. And because I have the writing experience and I know what it needs to be trained on and what I need it to be able to help me do and all the variables, my output is just significantly better. So I think that in order to use Claude to write really good stuff, you do need to have like fundamentally the knowledge of what it would look like to do that. You need to know what to ask, what to factor in, what variables to consider. And I don't think most people are able to do that at the same level that ghostwriters are who also use AI. So I think there's an edge there. In the future, could AI get so good that you don't even have to know and it can just figure it out for you? Maybe. Like, I don't know. Like, I believe that maybe that could happen. But right now, I would say that I don't see any evidence, at least in the next year or two, that it would be the case. And it also implies that the only value is the output and not the process. Because there are business owners that we work with who are very capable of doing it themselves. Like our actually like longest paying client and our highest paying client at the agency is someone who did write his own content for years. And I even like did like coaching with him and whatnot. And he's like, yeah, I know how to do it. I just don't want to. He's like, even if I could sit down and do it with AI, it still takes my focus away. I need to worry about sales and all the other parts of my business. Now I also have to have 1 to 2 hours in my calendar to mess around with AI, create, schedule, find the graphics. Like this idea that the only thing that matters is, can somebody create the output themselves? It's like, well, all of us on this call can also go and make dinner, but we still order out a lot of the time. Like there's another part of value that people conflate and are like, because the founder can do it themselves, they just won't hire anybody. Are you sure about that? There's a lot of things they could do themselves, but they still hire people.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, a couple years into the future, I don't know. I feel like AI could get so good to where it just does everything. Like right now, we can. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. But I think right now, it increases the volume and the quality of the output we can do. Just, I mean, even with the we absolutely use AI in our workflows for ghostwriting, and Taylin was able to basically transfer his entire brain of how he thinks about this into Claude projects, and it's almost like similar to as if Taylin were to coach someone or coach me on how to do this. It's basically him training an AI, and I know it's taken you dozens of hours to do this, to transfer your knowledge into these projects, and then the projects like help us edit newsletters, or think about like, hey, you need to think about this differently. This is like helps us outline, helps us transform, like pull out the biggest potentially home run content ideas out of a transcript, and how to position them as short form content or newsletters and stuff like that. So I don't know what the point is of what I'm trying to say, but it's hard to say. It's hard to say, but it's fun. It's fun writing with AI right now.
It is.
Yeah. But I think you guys kind of both touched on something there, that it's not just about the output, because like a successful founder could go spend the next 3 days like real deep diving into AI, learning like, hey, how can I use this AI tool to put out content for me? But I think you then kind of also run into the issue of like, if that's the priority, is like, how can I just use AI to just spray and pray content? Number one, I think you're more likely to put out kind of messy AI slop content that doesn't actually connect with the people you're hoping it connects with. But I think that then is also implying, like, if you say, well, founders are going to be able to use AI to do this themselves, that's implying that those founders are going to take the time to actually do that. And I mean, the dinner example is perfect, Taylin. Like, people outsource things all the time, not because they could not do them, but because they don't want to put in the time investment to figure it out. And I think with services like ghostwriting, or even things like coaching and consulting, it becomes more like, it's not just about, okay, what's the product they get out of the end of it? It's also like helping somebody kind of figure out almost like their identity in a way. Like, what do you want your brand to be about? What do you want to stand for? Because I think when you can have all these ideas in your head and messages that you think you want to put out, but when it comes to making content, you kind of have to like decide like, yeah, I'm willing to stand on this hill. I want my brand to be about this. And I think talking with somebody like you guys, that you have the writing background, you have the content creation background, but you also have business experience. So you're somebody that can kind of be like a mirror to these people and say like, okay, well, these are the questions I have about what you do. This is what I'm seeing. And almost kind of like help them rise a little bit more than just an AI bot could. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I'll make a prediction. This is maybe my boldest prediction, but I think this is what will happen is, when Aldis was talking about the job apocalypse, it's like, so I think right now you basically have a lot of different sizes of companies, and there's a lot of bloat. Like, to do things, that you need a lot of people to do all the operations. But I don't think AI is just going to take over literally everything for a lot of people, because it's like, what is AI going to, like, let's say you're a founder and you have to worry about sales, marketing, product, fulfillment, and you want to scale across multiple mediums. Are you going to take the time to sit down and do Facebook ads, Instagram ads, content on every single platform, script writing for YouTube, as well as like podcasts? Like, even just right there, it's like, that is so much, even with AI, to like direct the AI to do it and to schedule it all. That's like still a full-time job if you're going to go omni-channel marketing, right? So there will still be a lot of outsourcing, but it'll be outsourced to smaller teams that are high leverage. So I think about it as, right now you have big companies with a lot of employees. There will be a lot less employees at big companies. And then there will be a lot less medium-sized companies, but it'll like decentralize the job market. And you'll have teams of like 2 to 5 people that solve like problems that are very profitable, but they can just stay as a small team, and you get all these lifestyle businesses. It essentially like decentralizes the job market. Aldis and I are experiencing this. It's like, okay, me, you, and Dale, the 3 of us that are really working on this, are able to get to like probably 50 to 100K a month with the right offer stack, just writing Substack newsletters. Like for us, like that's great. Like, do we want to scale beyond that? I don't know. Probably not, if we're honest. Like that would be awesome if we could have just the three of us, maybe one or two other people, and we make like 50 to 100K a month. And we just work with a couple clients. We do like a lot of really good work for them. And they're like, we trust this small team to do the labor. I think that's going to happen at scale over the next 5 to 10 years. And the biggest problem is an education problem. It's that people that are getting laid off aren't being taught that they need to become more self-sufficient with AI and like work in smaller teams. We need to reconceptualize like what a workplace is. It doesn't need to be like a big company. It just needs to be a few like really high agency people. We just need more of those people in different domains and it'll just like scatter out. So that's my optimistic take on why people should become ghostwriters and high leverage with AI. Just you and your friends just like get good and make a shit ton of money, like 2 or 3 of you, and not work with like 50 people in a business. Like, I think that's dope.
Yeah. And I feel like what I like with AI is like you kind of get to like get a higher level of abstraction. Like you get to like do the thinking, and then it's almost like you can use AI not like kind of as a ghostwriter for you, but it kind of like it does the grunt work. It like does a lot of the like getting the words on the page, and then you're able to use your thinking to kind of like I don't know. I think writers in the future are going to be like part technologist, part writer. Like you have to be like an orchestrator. You're like more like the orchestrator or the director. Because when you think about creative work, like say, making a movie, the director isn't the one like holding the camera and like moving this, and they're not the one writing the scripts typically. It's almost like you get to be an orchestrator of all these different roles with the director analogy of like the script writer, the videographer, the set planner, and those can be AI. And for ghostwriting, for example, or similar businesses. So it's it's like you get to be an orchestrator or that kind of director of your business.
I agree. The only nuance I would add is that I think of AI across 2 use cases. One is the replacement of labor and one is the assistance of learning. And those are how I think about it. Is in business, I love that AI can replace a lot of the labor for me. Like I'm working with a consulting client and I have the recording, I put it into AI. Hey, what is everything I promised? Okay, can you help me create this like based on the 3 deliverables I said? Interview me and I will tell you like what we need. It gives me an output. I read it. Hey, wrong. This needs to be fixed. Now all of a sudden a 2-hour job or like even a 5-hour job sometimes turns into 20 minutes. And now I can work with more people and help more people. That's great. On the craft side of things, because AI replaces labor, you have to ask yourself, do I want to become a good writer or do I just want a strong output of writing? If you just want a strong output, you have to be the thinker and the orchestrator, and you have to know how to direct AI in the right way and what good looks like. So you need taste. If you care about craft and craft development, then you want AI to tighten the feedback loop so you can learn faster. And I think of it across those 2 use cases so that I know, as someone who cares about craft, okay, I need AI to give me feedback on what needs to be improved in this piece of writing based on the knowledge base that I give it. Or in business, I need it to replace labor so I don't have to do this.
That's a really good point. Do you want to become good at the craft of writing? Like, is it a craft to you, or are you just looking for the output of having good pieces of writing? That's really interesting. I love this. I feel like this kind of shows like the like I said before, like the person behind the business and like all the thought and strategy and stuff that goes into this. And this kind of takes me back to something that you guys touched on before. You guys have both brought up kind of your interest in like taking on a client in the mental health field. And I've noticed this is something that all 3 of us have written like pretty openly about in our content, whether it's, I call it like the kind of messy middle stuff, like things like mental health struggles. We've all even talked about things like substance use and stuff like that. And I think it's stuff that most business creators would probably think they need to keep private. I think there's this perception, like specifically on platforms like LinkedIn, that like if I show my kind of messy middle, I'll lose some authority. So I'm curious, what's been your guys' perspective? Do you feel like sharing that kind of like, struggle, messy middle part has changed how clients see you, approach you?
What do you find, Aldis?
I think it has. I have leaned in. I mean, it took me a while, but I have leaned into tactfully sharing about myself. And for me, it was tough because even like creating a personal brand, I was very much against. It took me a long time to buy into that idea. Way back in the day, I would build these faceless brands. Like I would build faceless channels on YouTube and Instagram and stuff. And then I was like, well, actually, I built this pretty big audience with this faceless brand, but I can't sell anything and no one trusts me. So one, like putting my face out there, even just any type of writing tied to my face and my name was scary. And at first I kind of leaned more into like, okay, I've done this. And then I really shied away from sharing too much about myself. I was like, I don't want to turn this into a diary. But I kept hearing this advice that, for you should do it. You should at least try it. And I just started sharing some things that were kind of like, I think when people follow someone, they like to see themselves in that person, even if it's subconsciously. And I think a lot of us, we just don't feel interesting enough. At least I didn't. And I was like, okay, I've heard this advice. I'm going to just share a little bit about myself. I got sober 7.5 years ago, and I shared a post about that and just some lessons I've learned about it. I was on LinkedIn a while ago, and it was really scary putting myself out there. But I do feel that the response from that was pretty incredible. And I do feel that, like, when I think about the brands that I really like, it almost feels like it's I don't know, like when you listen to the same person on a podcast weekly, they start to share little bits about themselves, and it's almost this relationship where you kind of feel like you know them, even though you definitely don't know them. All that to say that I think sharing about yourself makes the writing feel more authentic to you, and it just feels like, okay, like I'm not just sharing tips. I'm not purely just doing marketing to try to grow my business. That's a part of it, yes, but the personal aspect is it feels good to write about once you can kind of get over the fear of it. And then it's like just purely from a like tactical strategy, it works too. I think it's a good strategy. So that's kind of how I think about it.
So many things I could say. I'm just like, what should I say? For the fear of sharing personal stuff and having it lower your authority, it depends on the frame in which it's shared. Victim frame is low authority. I experimented and tested something, and this happened. This is my lived, felt experience, and here's what it taught me, and here's how it transformed me, is authoritative framing, even if it's around mental health. Like, I often get responses from people that say they are shocked at the amount of more mental health struggle based stuff that I share. But I mainly just share because it's real for me. It's like, that's what I'm going through that week. That's the most emotionally resonant thing that I feel to write about. And sometimes I've shared that, and I've actually had like clients. At one time, this guy paid me $10K per month after reading a newsletter about how I lost $70,000 with a bad business decision. I literally talked about how I lost money, and it was the biggest fuck up I ever made for my whole ghostwriting agency. And then at the end, I ended it with like, here's the lessons I learned. Here's how I rebuilt. Here's how it's never going to happen again. He's like, I trust you, 10 grand. Like, crazy. Like, when you have those experiences, you realize that, it's okay to share that kind of stuff and just be honest about where you're at. You don't have to be performative and just pretend like you have everything figured out. At any stage, there are people that are still figuring things out. Even Alex Hormozy, like, he's trying to become a billionaire, right? There's things he doesn't have figured out. You just always need to play like where your edge is and be honest about like where your current experience and skill level is across multiple domains. That's business, that's work, that's your mental health, that's your health. Like, you can just be honest about where the edge is everywhere. It's like there's going to be people who resonate with it. There's going to be people that look and say, he's like a little bit behind where I'm at, but like I remember that stage. Mm-hmm. I'll even tell you one story. I went to a friend's wedding in Mexico at the end of 2024, and I had a really hard business year in 2024. It's like my hardest year that I think I've had. And I felt like such a failure at the end of 2024 because I did a bunch of offers that made way less money than I had expected. I was like becoming commoditized compared to other people who were bigger than me. I literally was having people message me and saying, I don't know why I would buy any of your stuff compared to like Dan or Kieran or other people. And I was like, I'm just getting pummeled. Like, everyone just sees me as like the knockoff version of all these other creators. And then I went and met this guy who DM'd me on Twitter. He's like a published author and stuff. And he's like, oh, hey, I've been following you on Twitter for a while. You're in Mexico. We should meet up. I'm actually here. And I went for a walk with him through like the jungle. And I was just telling him how much of like a failure I felt like and how everything was like just burning down. And this guy's worth like so much money. And he's just so successful. And he goes, yeah, that happened to me 3 times before I like really made it. So just be grateful you got the first one out of the way. That's awesome. And he was like stoked about it. He's like, dude, like, yeah, it happens to everyone. Like, everyone has like the burn it down years or the years that just like really suck and you have to pivot and rebuild. He's like, it's just a part of the journey. Like, stop attaching it to your self-worth. Like, just keep going, man. And he's like, you'll crush. And he just literally said like, okay, well, what are you going to do to fix it? Just tell me right now. And we just mastermind it right there on the walk. And he's like, Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's all you need to do over the next 6 to 12 months and you'll be fine. And then in 12 months later, I'm fine. I just implemented that advice.
Got the first
And yeah, I messaged him like a couple of days ago. I was like, hey man, like that talk that we had in Mexico was like one of the most important talks in my life. Like, thank you so much for the support. And he's like, yeah, of course, you're crushing it. It's like, you can just be honest about that shit. Like everyone goes through it. There's no person that knows success all the time.
Yeah. I think it's super important to post like that, some like the vulnerable stuff, the stuff that you feel like, should I share this? Like, I don't know. I find that those end up often being some of my best posts, and some of the posts or the content that then has people reaching out to me being like, hey, I went through this, or like I relate to this. Even if they're ahead of you, they're a few steps behind you, it humanizes you. And I think it's also kind of interesting. I have like almost a flip way of looking at it, as kind of like a constant way to like reflect to myself, is like, if I have like picked up a habit, for example, or I've started doing something in my life or in my business that I feel like would be like shameful for me to share, like, oh, I wouldn't want to post about this, I wouldn't want people to know this, and there's probably an opportunity for some self-reflection there about like, why am I doing this then? Why am I partaking in this? Man, that's awesome. Okay, I want to be respectful of your guys' time, so I'm going to hit you with my last question so I make sure that we stay in our time window here. So you guys have obviously been building your businesses for a while now, multiple years. You guys are still here. You're still climbing. If you could give one piece of advice to like the 5 years ago you, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
I need time to think about it. Aldis, you go first.
The what? Oh, man, probably it's going to take longer than you think. And there are going to be times where you're wondering, is any of this worth it? Like, I've been putting so much of my time and energy into this. And there's just like that feeling of like, is any of this even going to be worth it? It doesn't go away. And then you have small victories where you're just like, fuck yeah. I am so happy I stayed in this. Like it's almost like it's elated feeling interspersed by more soon after, like feelings of like, okay, this is the next level of like, is any of this worth it? Is any of this going to work? And it's going to take longer than you think, but it's worth it.
That's a really good one. The only one that comes to mind for me is just keep going. And I kind of hate that because it's so trite. Like, I'm just like, oh, there should be some more unexpected wisdom here. It's, I don't know. I sometimes just think like, what else am I going to do? Like, just keep going, just keep trying. I was talking to a guy the other day who he's like in his early 20s. He's like crushing it on YouTube. And all he does is like work on YouTube. He's like, I work out and work on YouTube. And we're out for dinner. And he goes, but honestly, what else am I going to do? And I kind of like that frame. It's like, people are just like, oh, there's so much other fun things I could be doing. Like I could be reading a book, or I could be watching that new Netflix show, or playing a video game, or I could be out, playing sports or something. And like, yeah, like some of those are healthier than others, but I kind of like the frames. Like, just keep going, because what else are you going to do? Like sit around and do nothing? You got to work on something. You might as well just like go all in and like do something hard. It's like the journey of a lifetime.
Yeah.
I pivoted my answer halfway through. What else are you going to do? That's my real one.
No, it kind of came full circle back to like something you said at the beginning of the call, though, that if you find something that you honestly want to work on and you're in it for like the journey and you're in it for the long-term return, not just the short-term paycheck, like find something you actually want to work on and just keep going.
Yeah.
Seems like a good note to end it on.
Woo.
Okay, good stuff. All right. I am going to go ahead and stop our recording. But before I do that, just want to say thank you guys again for giving me your time. This was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having us.
It was really fun. Yeah, thanks for having us, Kelsey.